Hey, what's up? My name is Jam, and thank you for joining me for another Bishoujo action figure review. This is an unboxing and video review of the 1/6 scale Mai Shiranui 2-player version action figure by Genesis Emen. This is based on her appearance in the King of Fighters 14. I don't know the official release date, but I did have her on pre-order, and I just received her in March of 2022. She retails for around $220 US. The back and sides of the box are pretty plain, only showing a King of Fighters logo. I would have liked to see more photos, maybe some text, some kind of description. The lid is attached by magnets and can be turned into a backdrop because the back is printed with a background from the game. Comes with a little photo or postcard and an instruction manual, very simple. Shows how to put the stand together. Foam here. Plastic. Here's the figure. It does have a seamless body. Not bad. Got an alternate head sculpt here. This one has an open mouth. Got two hands posed together. Open hand, open left hand. Sort of a pointing left hand. And a somewhat closed left hand. For her right hand, we have an open right hand. Another sort of ninjutsu magic type of hand sculpt. And a closed fist. This actually looks really good. And then of course we have her hair. And this will need to be attached. This is a little hair ribbon. It's actually pretty thick. Off this layer. This reminds me a lot of the last figure I unboxed, which was the Cerberus figure. We have the stand. That looks really nice. I like it. It's some kind of glue here. It's got a little manhole cover with the Genesis Emen logo on it. And of course you got text on the bottom. Also have the actual holder stand. We have an umbrella. And this looks like a fully functional paper umbrella. We'll just put that back for now. We have a fan. This is a metal fan. These are all metal. The fan itself is paper. Got a string on it. It's kind of neat. It's got some weight to it because of all the metal in there. Whoa, this one came bent. This is a sculpted piece. Maybe it's supposed to be bent. I don't know. Figure that out. And then we have some, whoa, this looks kind of funky, but this is some hair. It's like a real hair type of thing. Instead of, if you don't want the molded hair, you can opt for this. And it's very fine. It feels very soft. Okay, let's take a look at the articulation. Of course, she has a ball jointed head. You can take that off. So she does have a sort of a ball joint at the base of her neck. Shoulders. Yeah, there's definitely like a hinge here. And there's also some kind of swivel point. It's kind of hard to tell, but it does stop at a certain point. But then you could, If you just rotate it the right way, you can get it all the way across. So there is some good flexibility there. And she raise her arm above her head, go that way, test her elbows. And they bend pretty far before the skin starts to fight against it. And there is a bicep swivel. Looks like the swivel's here. Wrists feel pretty good. It looks like, let's take a look. So yeah, it does have that ball joint at the wrist, but also that wrist point is hinged as well to give some added articulation. Moving right along, let's go to her hip joint. She can't go out that way. And so yeah, there's some good range of motion there. Pretty good. Past 90 degrees on her knee. And of course there is a swivel. Toes. Feels like another ball joint in there with a hinge. Does have ankle tilts. Of course, since it's a ball joint. About the ab crunch. Torso. There's really a lot of flesh here. And those are the hips. I'm trying to see what so yeah, she can bend back pretty far and bend forward pretty far and also tilt. And that pretty much does it for the articulation. Before we take a closer look at the figure, let's measure her height. So from her feet to the top of her ponytail, she's about 12 inches. And about 11¼ inches to the top of her actual head. In centimeters, that's about 30 centimeters to the top of her ponytail, and 28½ centimeters to the top of her head. So I've had the figure for a few weeks now, and I've been taking my time evaluating it and letting it sink in, since sometimes initial impressions can change after owning a figure for a bit. And I have to say, I really like it more than I thought I would. The head sculpt was a bit of a question for me when I first saw the official product photos. I wasn't sure if the likeness was good. Their last figure they released in the KOF line was Athena, and her head sculpt looks awful and doesn't resemble Athena enough, in my opinion. This Mai head sculpt reminded me a bit of that Athena head sculpt. I think it's the somewhat larger nose and rounder eyes that are doing that for me. Initially, I didn't like it. It just didn't look enough like Mai to me, and I still feel like that, but a bit less since the head sculpt has grown on me over time, or I guess I've gotten used to it. I compared it to her in-game model, and I think it could have been better. The eyes shouldn't be so round, and her nose shouldn't be so big. I think the head sculpt with the open mouth is more problematic than the closed mouth version, but overall they could have been improved. They're not ugly though, and definitely not as bad as the Athena head sculpt. And I've been able to take some great photos where her face looks really good, so posing and lighting can really make a difference. The figure also comes with an alternate ponytail made of synthetic hair. It's a nice thought, but ultimately I didn't like the way it looks, at least right out of the box. It's much too fluffy and it doesn't lay naturally. I think it could look better with some hair product added to help weigh it down, but I'm not quite brave enough to do that yet. I would have rather had an alternate sculpted ponytail in a more dynamic shape. Moving on to the seamless body, I have to say that I am really impressed with it. I wasn't expecting the body to be as toned as it is. I really thought it would be more of a beauty type of body, so seeing all the musculature details made me happy. This is a figure from a fighting game after all, so she should look like she could hold her own in a fight. I really wasn't happy with how the body looked on Genesis Emen's first Mai figure. It's too skinny and lanky looking, so this body is a huge improvement in terms of how it looks. It's just more in line with what Mai looks like. I do wish her thighs and hips were a bit bigger, since her in-game model is much wider in those areas, but it really is fine as is. There are no nipples on her chest, which some people might find a bit disappointing, but this might have been how SNK wanted it to protect the image of Mai as their character. I'm just speculating here, but Genesis Emen could have also left out the nipples to allow you to show as much cleavage as you want without worrying about a nip slip. There's sculpted detail in her crotch area, but it's pretty simple. Her outfit is nicely tailored and is made of a stretchy material to give it a skin-tight look. This is pretty accurate to her in-game appearance, where it's even more skin-tight, conforming to her bosom in an unrealistic way. Obviously, clothes don't act like that in real life, so I actually prefer how it looks on this figure. The white trim is nicely done, and the tailoring looks pretty clean and finished. Flower detailing has been applied to her outfit by possibly heat transfer vinyl, and it looks good, but also makes the material a bit stiffer. Her belt has a fine amount of detail and is complete with a gold accent rope, accurate to the game. It is secured with Velcro in the back. The tail or giant tassel is attached to the belt and is filled with stuffing to give it a fuller appearance. The big purple bow is also stuffed like pillows, and they also have flower detailing applied to them. The handguards and her footwear are also made of fabric, and the handguards even have a small loop to go around Mai's middle finger. My main gripe about her outfit is that it doesn't have any wires in the lower part of her gi or in her giant tassel. This makes it hard to put her in action poses, and you won't be able to truly recreate some of the moves like her Ruembu, where she whips her giant tassel and lights opponents on fire. Without a wire, you won't be able to pose the tassel unless you come up with your own solution. It's not necessarily a deal breaker for me, but it certainly limits the posing possibilities. Mai comes with quite a few accessories. She of course needs her fan, which she throws as projectiles and is pretty much always carrying. You get one functional fan that can open and close. The arms are made of metal and the actual fan part is thick paper. You also get a closed fan molded in plastic. This one has a little tab on the side so you can insert the fan into her open-mouthed head sculpt. Mai often has her fan in her mouth, so this is quite crucial to her character. Unfortunately, the fan doesn't fit snugly enough in her mouth and falls out quite easily, just due to gravity. I almost would rather they permanently attach the fan to her mouth or find a better solution. You also get 9 interchangeable hands in various poses, and the sculpting on these are excellent. There's a good amount of detail in each individual finger, and I'm really impressed with how these turned out. The fist, for example, looks really good with actual space between the thumb and the pointer finger, a detail I don't think I've ever seen before. They can be a little hard to change, but warming them up a little with a hairdryer or heater will solve that easily. One thing to watch out for is to make sure you pull off the hand guards along with the hands at the same time because of the loop around the middle finger. If you're not careful, you could rip that thread out on accident. Mai sometimes pulls out an umbrella during her wind poses, so one is provided here. This one is made of paper, wood, and plastic and is fully functional and works just like a real umbrella. While I do like the functionality and the realistic materials, I can't help but be reminded of a cocktail umbrella. It does the job though, and there's a little wire to keep it open, and it is printed with Mai's catchphrase, Nippon Ichi. Finally, you get a detailed rectangular base. It is detailed to look like a cobblestone street with a manhole. The detailing is quite nice, and it almost looks like you can remove the manhole cover, but you can't. The paintwork looks good with weathering and a mossy look to the cobblestones. There's also a King of Fighters 14 logo at the front of the base, and overall I think this base turned out really well. The posable arm that attaches to the base holds its position well, and the claw type holder is equally tight so the figure feels secure while attached to the stand. My one nitpick is that the bottom of the base is not perfectly flat, so it's quite easy for it to spin. Adding some padded feet at the corners would alleviate this, but really it should have just come with them. So overall, I ended up really liking this figure more than I thought I would. I bought this figure kind of taking a chance, having never bought a Genesis Emen figure before. I'm happy to say that the figure looks pretty much exactly how she looks in the official product photos. So if you like those, then you'll like this figure. The head sculpt could be more accurate to the in-game design, but it's still a good-looking head sculpt. The body is very posable, and the muscle tone is perfect, but I did want to see thicker hips. The outfit looks and fits very nicely, though I do wish it had wires for dynamic posing. Excellently sculpted hands and all the basic accessories you need for a Mai figure make this a well-rounded package. If you're a Mai fan or just like the way this figure looks, then I totally recommend it. Check out the description for places to buy. Well, thanks for joining me. Please like and subscribe if you like this review. It really helps me out. Let me know if you have this figure or any other Genesis Emen figures in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts. Jam out.